Today's Ideation Today and part 3 of our mini-series involving the CRIS strategies of prepare, engage, transform, and reflect. Today our guest is Kelly Taylor, the English teacher, and we're going to be focusing on the transform component. Kelly, how do you go about the process when it comes to transforming a lesson and drafting it to get it ready to get students engaged in the content?
Well, I think about transform as really part of the engage process. When CRIS looks at engage and transform together, we're looking at 4 different principles. So we look at discussing, writing, organizing, and visualizing. And for me, it's the easiest to get students to transform their information and really transform their understanding of material through organizing and visualizing.
What advice or words of encouragement would you give to a staff member who's wanting to take a risk when it comes to transforming a lesson?
First of all, I would say collaborate with their peers. So ask people what they're doing. Think, this is super cliche, but think outside of the box, right? What else can I have my students do with them? What are my goals? What are my objectives? And then how can I have them take this information and do something creative or demonstrate their understanding in a different way? So it's really just taking things that they already do and flipping them around, twisting them up, getting kids to think creatively. And sometimes then we need to think creatively as teachers ourselves.
With student-created projects, could you elaborate a little bit on how you provide a rubric or a set of expectations when it comes to dealing with these projects?
Sure. My English 1 honor students always ask me, well, how are you going to grade this, right? How do we take something that looks like this, right, that is a really articulate drawing or really artistic drawing, and how do you grade that? So I always start with my objectives, my list of expectations that I have. So whatever I want them to get. So maybe it's using textual evidence, maybe it's citation. And I pull those things out of the assignment sheet that I gave them and just do a single and easy single point rubric. I tend to keep it pretty holistic. So, does it exceed expectations, proficient, satisfactory? So it's very kind of standards based. And then, the creativity isn't easily assessed, but are they demonstrating the understanding? Are they meeting that objective? And then are they exceeding above that objective? And sometimes it's giving them samples, right? So if you can model what an excellent looks like versus proficient, then that communicates those clear expectations to the student. Really going over that assignment sheet and saying, yes, not every artistic product is going to look like this. If it's a stick figure, that's okay, as long as you can demonstrate that same sophisticated line of thinking. So it gives every kid an opportunity to feel like they can be successful.
So in essence, what you're asking is that not only are the teacher taking the risk, but you're asking the student to take a risk, try something different that can enhance their learning.
Absolutely.
Kelly, can you please explain to me how these types of learning activities enable you as the teacher and to gauge an understanding of your students' mastery of the content?
What I love about transforming information after engaging with content is that it can't just be regurgitation. So I know that students aren't just going to give me back what I gave to them. So if we're reading a passage together in class and then they're annotating, right? So maybe that's the engage, right? The reading and the note-taking, that's the engage piece. And then I ask them to do something different with it. They can't just repeat what I've already told them. So they have to come up with their own original thoughts, but also in their own individual way, so they can make sense of material in a way that makes sense to them. So today, just today, I gave students a quiz. We had read a scene from Macbeth together in class. We annotated together, we paraphrased together, then they took notes on their annotations and answered a series of questions. So if I would have given them just a multiple choice quiz, it would have been straight regurgitation, right? They're just trying to memorize those facts. They're not demonstrating that they actually know who these characters are and how they relate to one another. So instead, I used just a basic CRIS strategy that we all use, right? Concept mapping, graphic organizers, and gave them a list of characters on the board and said, create a character map and show me the relationships between these characters in whatever way that makes sense to you. And so they came up with different kinds of concept maps. Some had a character in the middle and showed the connections branching out to each other. Some had kind of like a tree looking organizer, so they showed a hierarchy of power between the characters. Some included symbols and more, picture notes than just words and phrases. Some used direct quotes. They could use their book. It wasn't just to test, can they memorize what's going on, but do they really understand it, and can they make it their own?
I'd like to thank Kelly for coming and joining us today. And in next week's finale of this mini-series, Stephen Rose will be interviewing Stefan Fouts when it comes to the reflection component of the CRISP strategies.